Am I wrong for kicking out my stepkids after their mom passed? Story. My wife passed away just before last Thanksgiving. It came out of nowhere and I am somewhat broken. To make it worse, my stepkids have decided that since I'm not their father, they don't have to obey me anymore. They are teens and they have never been my biggest fans. They love their dad and I was only ever their mom's husband. However, when Dina was alive, they treated our home well and me with respect. After she died, they became assholes. Yes, I know their mom died. It sucks, but that was my wife and the mother of my children. I am also having a tough time dealing. Their paternal grandparents are also crapping on me for not being more understanding of all they are going through. I have tried. I have offered them counseling. I have given them space. I have been there for them. I am at my wit's end. The last straw was when we were over there for supper last week. I said it was time to go so I could get the littles to bed. My stepkids said that they didn't want to go and that I should leave them and come back for them. It is a 2-hour drive. I said no. Their grandparents said I was being too hard on them and that I should let them stay. I am having a hard time with 2 small children, the loss of my wife, and 2 teen assholes without having my in-laws pile on to make my life more difficult. So I did. I also packed up their stuff. Instead of coming back for them, I dropped off their stuff at their grandparents' house. I have 2 kids under 5 to take care of. I don't really have time to babysit 2 teens who are just making my life harder. My house is clean for the first time in weeks. My kids are sleeping through the night. My stepkids are living with their uncle in the same city as me so they can finish high school with their friends. Everyone on their dad's side is against me. I really don't care. I was told by both of them and by their father that I was not to try and parent them. So I'm not. I actually do not have any parental rights over them. Their dad was not even okay with me being a contact for them at school, so his parents bear the contact. My wife left behind a small life insurance policy, which I will divide between the 4 kids. But I was the breadwinner in my house. I bought pretty much everything there for the last 8 years, so now it's all mine. My in-laws are calling me an asshole for abandoning the kids, but I have 2 kids that need me more. The older 2 have a dad as well as grandparents to help them. My kids do too, I guess, but they also have me and I want them to have a peaceful home. Was I wrong here? Response 1, info needed. If the teens don't have you as an emergency contact because of their father, why did they not go to live with their father immediately or nearly immediately after your wife's death? I am very sorry for your loss also and feel bad for everyone here, to be certain. Reply 1, their father works at a FIFO camp. He has no permanent home. Reply 2, well, he needs to step up and get that changed. Sucks for him, but not really your problem. Reply 3, the father even said OP must not parent them, but at the same time doesn't want to step up. Hell no. Reply 4, yeah, I feel that his 2 children losing their mother trumps his job situation. Everyone needs to stop crapping on you and start asking him why he's not stepping up in this terrible situation. I'm really sorry for your loss. I can see why you came to a breaking point. You had a difficult choice to make, and you prioritized your 2 younger children. The 2 teens have a father, and he needs to start being a dad to them. Reply 5. And did you notice it is the dad's family who is crapping on him for not being a dad? Like, hello, there is the bio dad? Reply 6. Crapping on him for not being a dad while simultaneously not supporting him and having parental authority. It's a thoroughly unworkable situation. Every single grandparent plus the bio dad needs to hang their heads in shame for this. It wasn't helping the teenagers adjust to their mother's death. It wasn't helping the little kids either. And it definitely wasn't helping OP. Reply 7. Yes, they made a difficult time worse by being such assholes. They should have been supporting OP in co-parenting his stepkids, not treating him like an unpaid nanny and wallet. Now they're pissed because they have to step up and put their time and money where their mouths are and actually take care of these kids. And neither bio dad, aka baby daddy, nor his parents are doing that. Baby daddy's brother is the one stepping up to do that. Bet they'll be crapping all over him too. Unless OP has to facilitate visits so the kids can have a relationship because they're siblings, OP should block the numbers of baby daddy and any of his family harassing OP. Hopefully, there's someone on the mom's side or a family friend whom OP trusts who can facilitate it. And if not, OP should talk to a family therapist and a lawyer about how to facilitate the relationship with some boundaries and conditions in place. Response 2, I am probably going to be the minority, but I think not the a-hole. They have lost their mum, absolutely right, so you would expect trouble and playing up, etc. But what I don't understand is why their dad has not swooped in. If you were such a hindrance, where is he? As long as everyone is happy, including all the kids and yourself, I wouldn't fret about anything, as I cannot see what you have done wrong here. You haven't left them on the streets. You have left them with family and they are happy. If Daddy is so worried, he can step in, can't he? Reply 1. Yeah, you can't have children living with you when you're not allowed to parent them. So OP is not the a-hole. The grandparents and the father should have done more to ensure the teenagers listen to OP. Sure, teenagers act out, but the grandparents and father encouraging them will guarantee that it stays this way. There was no hope for betterment. It would have only gotten worse. Reply 2. Only part of how I read the situation. Teens are being a-holes and now grandparents and uncles have to deal with that. Making a disaster area out of the house leaps out at me. All the empathy in the world for the teens doesn't change that they aren't being decent human beings, and OP has no obligation to them anymore, and no support from his late wife's family except as a hotel and ATM. I suspect that they are berating OP because they don't really want the teens either, because they are miserable, and even in combination, don't have OP's late wife's parenting skills. OP is not the a-hole. He should not be disappointed if he isn't invited to high school graduation, if the terrors in fact graduate, and happily roll any college savings for the miscreants into savings for his own children. Teens are ungrateful wretches, and the late wife's family are awful people. I'll point out that the younger children are the grandparents' grandchildren also, but there doesn't seem to be much concern for them. So much for family. Reply 3. I don't agree with the jabs about their graduation and college funds, but I agree with the rest of it. Your response to their education just feels weirdly punitive. OP probably wasn't the main contributor to their college funds, and if nothing else, going to college trade school makes it more likely they'll grow up and learn responsibility. Reply 4. OP has no control over whether the teens invite him to their graduation. They are little a-holes, so probably not. Dollars to donuts, they'll expect presents. The teens are not OP's children, and they're treating him horribly. There is no reason anyone should expect him to spend many tens of thousands of dollars on their college education, particularly given the treatment of OP by the teens' father and grandparents. Actions have consequences, and the teens, their father, and paternal grandparents have effed around and found out. Reply 5. If the mom left savings for them, it would be nice not to spit in her grave and leave them without recourse for being teenage assholes after their mother's death. They are grieving children. OP doesn't have to house them, but he owes them some decency. Reply 6. The teens are spitting on their mother's grave, trashing her home, and disrespecting her husband. He was decent. He could have shoved them out the door, tossed their clothes on the lawn, and called CPS. He took them to their grandparents where they wanted to go 2 hours away and ended up driving home, packing their belongings, and delivering them. That's 6 hours on the road plus packing time. That sounds pretty decent to me. They've been spending his money long enough. It's time for their father, grandparents, uncle et al. To step up. OP deserves room to grieve also. Have some consideration for him. If OP's late wife left savings to her awful teens, that will be in her will and will sort itself out. Teens are a-holes, teens' fathers are a-hole, and paternal grandparents are a-holes. OP has been quite decent. No need to be a saint. Response 3. Not the a-hole. If what you say is true, and you've done everything within your power to help them grieve and transition going forward without their mom, then what else can you do? It sucks that the other two kids lose that day-to-day contact with their siblings, but it may be better for all involved, especially if the teens hold contempt for the little ones. If their father wasn't willing to step up right away, then that says a lot about the dad and the in-laws, in my opinion. Wash your hands of that family, as they will only try to harm you going forward. Reply 1. They're lashing out, especially because the usual buffer between them and OP is gone. Yes, they're teenagers, but their paternal grandparents should recognize OP is dealing with losing his wife while raising their 2 young kids. Not to mention, during the Christmas season, traditionally family-oriented at times, the family is very fragmented. The grandparents should have been the ones to step in to try to temper their grandchildren, or the father. They can't get mad at OP for dropping parental responsibility when everyone has made it clear they don't see OP as being in a parental position for teenagers. It's abundantly clear OP is only tolerated as a resource rather than as a person who is grieving. but he doesn't even have any support person he mentions. Reply 2. If I don't have parental rights, then I don't have parental responsibilities. I have 2 small children who have also lost their mother and only have a dad. Well, so do they. And just as I am taking care of my responsibilities to my children, their dad should too. He doesn't get to criticize me when he's not stepping up himself. Here's a golden opportunity to find out. And for the kids, they still need their parents. All of them. Those 2 made it clear I'm not acceptable, and I'm done fighting for them. They still have their real father and can get what they need from him. Maybe someday they'll understand they're not the only ones hurting, but I can't fight and give the little ones everything they need. It's too much. Not the a-hole. Reply 3. In times of crisis, you kind of have to triage. He only has so many resources to offer, and given there is another family that can support the teenagers, OP's limited resources have to go to the younger children and himself. It sucks. I know those teens are grieving, but they are old enough to know or learn that treating other people like garbage has consequences. Not to mention, I can't imagine having children under my roof that I can't even pick up from school if they are sick. I live in a different state, and I'm on the list for my nephews in case of emergencies. Not the a-hole, and I hope all the family is able to grieve and move on. Reply 4. Yeah, I can get why OP feels super guilty about it, as this is a choice he isn't wanting to actually make. If he had infinite resources, he likely would keep trying with the teens because he knows the dad won't bother. He just doesn't have the resources to. He actually cares about these teens even if they are a-holes right now, like an actual parent. While it sounds like no one in the paternal family really wants to try for these teens, they just want to criticize OP and bully him because they're a-holes and are miffed they have to deal with teens acting out now. The teens probably can't imagine a reality where OP cares for them. I hope they come around in time and realize that OP cares and can appreciate it later in life and gain some perspective on how challenging his position actually was. Response 4. Not the a-hole. Why are you looking after children who you have no parental rights over and who hate you? What the hell happens if you need to give medical consent for something? They're acting out, but they have a living parent and grandparents who can step up and look after them. Though, as they're now living with their uncle, it looks like the conflict was about them not wanting to do this, but also not supporting you in doing this. Reply 1. The only important opinions beyond OP are those of the teenagers. If they don't like their new living situation, they can apologize and agree on behavioral changes. They're nearly adults and are capable of rational thought, including accepting the consequences of their actions. Sounds like they and OP are happy with the new situation, so it's hard to give any merit to anyone else who thinks OP is an ahir. Reply 2. I think the key point is stepkids never accepted OP as a real parental figure. Everyone also supported this idea, but now everyone's expecting OP to be a parental figure? Reply 3. Not even a parental figure. It sounds like the bio-dad and his family just want him to financially support the teens while the teens do whatever they want. The bio-dad, grandparents, and uncle can't really parent from afar when it comes to the day-to-day stuff. What about emergencies? Is FIFO-dad really able to respond as an emergency contact? Not really. He can't drive to the school and pick them up. He can't get to a hospital in a reasonable time. The teens need someone to be there for them daily. They and their family clearly don't see their stepdad as that person, so what do they really want from him? Reply 4. I believe the uncle is in the same city as the stepdad, and that is why the kids now live with him so they can finish school with their friends. With the bio-dad's attitude, it seems to me the teens should have moved there right after their mom passed away if stepdad wasn't to be allowed to parent them. Reply 5. Yes, but my point was that even if you're in the same city, it would be a challenge for the uncle to parent from outside the home, especially if he's not taking on parenting responsibilities. Co-parenting is a challenge, and good co-parents work together to create and enforce boundaries. The bio-dad's family is not working to set up OP for co-parenting success. It doesn't sound like the uncle was the emergency contact either, although I hope he is now since the teens are living with him. So what is the OP's role? Landlord, chef, chauffeur? What is his responsibility to his wife's ex and her ex-in-law? If the kids don't have a bond with or respect for OP and don't want to live with him, then really what is his responsibility to this family? It would be completely different if the kids had bonded with him and the bio family supported him. I say cut off all ties with his wife's ex and ex-in-laws, but leave the door open for the teens in case they mature and want to have a relationship with their younger siblings. They may never care for their stepdad, but they may want a connection to their mom when they get older. Not sure what her family's role is in all of this. Response 5. Not the a-hole. First and foremost, I'm deeply sorry for your loss. You're doing your job, and that's to take care of yours. It sounds like these kids' families are perfectly content letting you handle raising their kids/grandkids and then being critical when things don't go according to what they want. What's curious to me is that their father is still alive and they aren't with him. After the dust settled following their mother dying, he should have become their primary parent, but instead, he's part of the peanut gallery criticizing you. You did nothing wrong. Don't let these people make your life more miserable than it is. I hope you can find peace. Response 6. First off, I am so sorry for your loss. Secondly, not the a-hole. You have 2 little ones who are going to have a hard enough time with not having a mother anymore. They don't need negativity while they are trying to heal. But please, OP, keep in contact with them. You are still a big part of their lives, and although they are being asshats, in the end they are kids, and perhaps lashing out at you is the only way they feel they can safely vent their anger and frustration. Reply 1. To be honest, OP doesn't deserve to be lashed out at by anyone. It doesn't matter if the ones doing the lashing are teens. They can lash out at their own family who's responsible for them. OP needs to take care of his own kids, not be abused by teens who hate him. Reply 2. They aren't kids. They are tens. If they were actually kids, I wouldn't be so hard on them. These teens are trying to ruin things at this point because they don't respect their stepdad. That's not OP's problem. They aren't hood kids, especially with how they've been treating him. Reply 3. They are kids. Teens are kids, especially when it comes to dealing with something traumatic like the death of a parent. My husband died a little over 6 weeks ago. Our children are 16 and 18. One is technically an adult, the other not far behind. They have no clue whatsoever on how to manage this type of occurrence. Their brains aren't fully developed, and they are just now learning how to master their day-to-day emotions. My kids are a mess right now. I'm a mess right now. To expect OP and his stepkids to be anything other than a mess also is unrealistic. OP, not the a-hole, but please also give the kids some grace for the trauma they are dealing with. In addition to the death of their mother, they have a dad not willing to make changes to provide them with stability. They are suffering right now, too. Response 7. Not the a-hole. If you never adopted the stepkids, and if they have a father who is still alive, and if they don't want to be with you, then you did the right thing. Their bio family can look after them. And well done for splitting the insurance 4 ways. Reply 1. Yep, not the a-hole. I would also give each kid a copy of the insurance paperwork so they can see that the insurance has been split evenly. Response 8. Not the a-hole. While it must suck for the kids, they are not your kids if you don't have parental responsibility for them. Their father and grandparents can step up and be there for them. Reply 1. Unfortunately, it seems the father and grandparents don't want to care for them. Reply 2. Then they are learning early what happens when you burn every bridge in your life with crappy behavior. Sucks, but that's the way it is. With no more mom around to force the step-parent to be nice and take care of them, they apparently didn't figure out in time that they should have been in full ass-kissing mode to keep their place in life. Response 9. Not the a-hole. The teens have a father who doesn't want you to parent them. Well, what's the issue then? Now, he can be a full-time dad. Concentrate your energy on your 2 small children. They are also grieving and need attention. They have only you. I am sorry for your loss. Response 10. Not the a-hole. Screw that dad, man. If he was so into parenting them, he should have picked them up the freaking second she died. Screw the grandparents for undermining you during the hardest part of your life. Screw those teens for everything about this. Grief sucks. Yeah, but taking a crap on you, who is also grieving, is pretty freaking awful. Reply 1. Kids are selfish and insensitive, so I can give them a little grace, but the rest of that family is ridiculous. Pay for everything, do all the parenting, but only the difficult parts, and we get to criticize. I feel bad for those teenagers because they don't know any better, and now the bio family isn't going to do right by them in the long run. Reply 2. Kids are to a point. They know deep down this man cared for them, and they couldn't do even a small reach for a guy that freaking showed up every day. I can't give them the benefit here. They knew him for years. Reply 3. Grief brings out the worst in some, people don't realize how angry you'll feel at the person who dies until it happens to you. It's surprising, and you feel a lot of shame over it. Teenagers who are immature and don't regulate their emotions well already don't have anywhere to channel their anger at their mom dying. Stepdad is the easiest place to unload it. I am not saying this is okay. He does not deserve that, and I think he made the right choice to let them go to their bio family. Reply 4. The teen kids would have been reeled in if their bio dad and grandparents helped parent them. They are being needy for their remaining bio relatives due to their unusual situation. With their kid logic, they believe the barrier towards living with them was OP. Not the a-hole for OP, but the kids are just being kids. The other relatives who enjoyed that fun dad credit without the actual parenting suck though. Response 11. Not the a-hole. As you say, you have no parental rights, and they don't like you. It wouldn't be right to continue this. I was told by both of them and by their father that I am not to try and parent them. This alone, you've tried to help, but they don't want it. You need to be selfish here and focus on the two younger ones. Reply 1. I don't even think it counts as being selfish. You can't abandon kids that aren't yours, and you have no legal responsibility in the first place, in my opinion. Reply 2. Yeah, it seems like from a legal standpoint, this is the same as if OP had a roommate with kids pass away, tried to keep the kids for a bit, but then returned them to their next of kin when the kids made it clear that they didn't want to stay with OP, even if it's what the deceased roommate would have preferred. Reply 3. Honestly, OP said they tried grief counseling and several other things. That's a lot more than a lot of other step-parents would do. OP is already a good person and not the a-hole in my eyes for the effort that's already been put in. Response 12. Not the a-hole. I lost a parent as a preteen, and it's difficult. You'd expect it to be for everyone. If you want to do right by your wife, make it clear to everyone that the kids are welcome in your home. You'll always be happy to have them around and want them in their siblings' lives and yours. Maybe they get copies of family photos and can access things that belong to their mom. And don't say just because you paid for everything that it's your kids. Their mom raised your children, and that's a job, and she gave up some stuff for her existing kids to raise more kids. However, it's impossible for you to parent them with everyone reinforcing you have no say as you're not their dad. It makes it impossible for you. Tell everyone else that they are saying this has made it difficult for your stepkids when you've just tried to do right by them. Also, why the F is dad not stepping up and blocking you from accessing school but expecting you to raise them? Reply 1. I agree. I am completely with the OP, except for the part where he says that since he is the breadwinner, he doesn't owe them anything, and now it's all his. I assume his wife invested time to raise the kids, and if they were to get a divorce, she would get her half and her teen kids would be in a better financial situation. I hope he realizes that. And yes, their dad should step it up. Where the hell is he now when he didn't even want him as an emergency contact? Reply 2. When someone who is married dies without a will, their estate goes to their spouse. It does not go to their children, even if the children are minors. For marriage in most jurisdictions, everything the decedent owned was technically co-owned with their spouse. This isn't because OP was the breadwinner, as he stated, it's because they were married. The fact that he mentioned that tells me he has a fuzzy perception of legal details here and tells me he should consult an estate lawyer, T-By. By OP's logic, if the situation were reversed and the mom was the breadwinner, that would mean the stepkids would be able to abscond with half the household wealth on their way out the door. No, the marriage is the point here. Their shared stuff goes to OP by default, though he should absolutely set aside some sentimental things of hers for them. These kids will have access to survivor benefits through SSA, and OP is right to split her insurance money, but other than that, her belongings automatically became OP's. Response 13. Not the a-hole. I'm not their father. They don't have to obey me anymore. Fair enough. Since you're not their father, you don't have to spend money or energy on them anymore. Their paternal grandparents are also crapping on me for not being more understanding of all they're going through. Why don't they crap on their son? He's the father, not you. I was told by both of them and by their father that I am not to try and parent them. Then what the heck do they want? My in-laws are calling me an asshole for abandoning the kids. Again, they should crap on their son, the kid's actual father, for sending them to live with uncle instead of taking them in. Reply 1. I'm a bit confused by the in-laws comments in the post because I feel it was used to refer to the kid's bio dad's parents earlier in the post and not their mom's family, which is what it would usually mean. But regarding the last bit, these teens could have two sets of grandparents. Their paternal grandparents, who probably see them a bunch if there is a custody arrangement since their father isn't always around, and their mom's parents, OP's actual in-laws. OP's actual in-laws, his wife's parents, could be upset that they have just lost their daughter, and now they are losing two of their grandkids. It sounds like if they want to see the kids, they will have to work with the bio dad and his family, which might be a tense relationship depending on how things ended, whereas before they could have just talked to OP and gotten all four of their grandkids visiting at the same time. Unfortunately, as OP pointed out, he has no parental rights over the older two, and they do not want him to be a parent to them. So, if his wife's parents are in the picture, they will sadly need to learn to coordinate with two different people in order to see all their grandkids. They might also feel that the move is not in the best interest of the teens, or they might just be lashing out in grief. Either way, it is done. The teens are moved out, and OP is no longer being a parent to teens. He had no legal right to parent. Hopefully, the older two will come around to see their siblings from time to time though, because that is probably the saddest part of all of this. This might also be what the in-laws, and possibly all the grandparents, are worried about most. Response 14. What a horrible situation for everyone. I understand that you are overwhelmed with it all, and at that moment, you are not the a-hole. The grandparents could and should have stepped up, in my opinion. And instead of making supper at their place, they could have come over and helped in your house with all the kids and have conversations with you and the kids about what everyone needs. They just lost their daughter, but need to see that the situation everyone ended up in needed help. But the same goes for the biological father, because even though you have no parental rights, you were their caregiver, if they wanted it or not. So, it would have been good to have a sit down with the adults and discuss the situation and the possibilities, and then have a sit down with the teens. But please keep in mind that you were their last stable caregiver, and your kids are their half-siblings. Please don't close your doors on them permanently and give them the chance to reconnect without any resentment. Everybody is overwhelmed at this moment, and it is good to just keep the opportunity open to have the chance to reconnect and have a family bond together.